those who have been the beneficiaries of this.
I'm Ebony McMorris with AURN News. I'm the White House correspondent here, and we are back with another On the Record segment. And I'm excited about today's conversation because I've been trying to get this amazing woman on with us today, Candace Queen. She is the Executive Vice President for the Mosaic Center. And they have had some amazing accomplishments and initiatives throughout the year. First, let me just say, Candace, welcome to AURN.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Absolutely. First, tell everyone about the Mosaic Center, those who may not know.
Yes. So the Mosaic Center sits under the American Advertising Federation. And so it's a trade organization, a very long-standing trade organization in the ad industry. And basically what we do under the Mosaic Center umbrella is focus on all things diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we work with our corporate partners for the AAF. We provide a lot of different resources around diversity, equity, inclusion in terms of helping increase diversity in talent pipelines. We collaborate with our partners on identifying best practices in terms of marketing and advertising. So we do a lot. And we stay busy. We just wrapped up the Mosaic Awards. And so we're really riding off of that high and getting focused on a few other events coming up.
Before we even get to the DEI portion, let's talk about the awards. Give us a summary. I wasn't able to come, but I'm hearing it was fantastic. Who are you honoring? What happened?
Yeah, so it was really amazing. If you haven't been to Mosaic Awards, a brief summary is that it really just focuses on acknowledging the best of the best in multicultural advertising and then diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives within the ad industry and the greater ecosystem in the advertising industry. And so this year was pretty exciting because we did introduce 2 new categories, which has been something that's kind of been a long time coming. We wanted to make sure that we were giving diverse suppliers their recognition. They've contributed so much to the industry and making it better. And so this year we introduced the Agency of the Year Award. And essentially that is geared towards minority-owned or majority minority-owned agencies. And this year, Walton Isaacson won. You may know their work if you don't know them. If you saw Black Panther and you saw the Lexus collaboration, they were behind that, and among so many other amazing pieces of work. So we're really excited about that. And then we also introduced a category called the Guardian of the Mosaic Center. And so we have a few categories that recognize individuals, but it's primarily focused on their external work. This work in this particular climate, this was focused on folks that are really doing direct work with the Mosaic Center and making sure that our voices are heard within their corporations. As we see a lot of rollbacks with DEI dollars, just making sure that our programs are prioritized. So we're really excited. Jeff Marshall received that award this year. And it was just an amazing event. I think in this climate, a lot of times people put a heavy critique on award shows. But I think with the work that we do, it's really important to pause and assess the impact that you created. Because it can be very daunting work. It can be very stressful work. And sometimes it does require you to just take a minute and say, hey, look how many lives we impacted. Look how much we changed in just this year. And so it was very much so like a reunion. It's probably one of the more collaborative events that we have. So I was really excited about it.
Let's get into some of the details when we talk about DEI. I just attended the National Association of Black-Owned Broadcasters. In one of the panel discussions, we were talking about Black culture and how it literally has shifts and shaped it. It shifts and shapes narratives, right? And how so many are profiting off of it, but many times we don't necessarily see that we are. But it also talked about how important diversity is in many of these campaigns. I know the Mosaic Center, you really focus a lot and believe in the power of that. But as you said, we are seeing many of these efforts challenged in and out. How are you able to remain vigilant and informed when it comes to this? And what are you seeing? What are some of the numbers that you can share with us when it comes to either our impact or even the numbers on a rollback?
Yeah. So I don't have exact numbers for the greater industry, but I can say for our respective initiatives, we've seen about a 40% decline in funding for our programs. Yeah. And so it's really impacted what we're able to do. It's pushed us to rethink how we package up our partnerships and sponsorships, our placements and things, where we're having things, where we can cut costs without impacting the students that we serve, the alumni that we aim to support that go through our programs. But to your point, just speaking from a Black cultural perspective, it really shifts, what we see in media, what the trending topics are, the vernacular of the current generation right now. And it's so important from our perspective to make sure that the talent that we bring into this industry understands what they bring to the table. This isn't charity. This isn't like, you should be lucky or blessed to be. You are blessed to be here, but you shouldn't feel like you are undeserving in any kind of capacity, because this industry leans on your culture. Across a lot of multicultural communities, they lean on that culture to shape the work that they do, and it shows up in so many areas. But then the issue is, oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes, they don't have those diverse voices behind the work. Or when we look at the creator economy, we see.
Look, I just gotta stop you. Not most of the time. Listen, we're not seeing us. I'm just being honest. Like heavily leans on the culture. But most of the time, we're not in the decision-making process. We're not in the in some of the C-suite and in control. Like, that's just the truth of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you say C-suite, that's, if we give grace, right, and say, let's just do all communities that fall under that BIPOC umbrella, just the BIPOC umbrella.
Gotcha.
It's probably less than 15%, and I'm probably being generous there.
Generous. But even who's that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely it feels sometimes like, I gotta speak to my grandmother about the work that I'm doing. My great-grandfather was very active in civil rights work in the area. I grew up in Port Arthur, Texas. And so it's still very tense at some times. And so to speak to her about what we're doing and the challenges that we're facing, and it's not as severe as their day, but the fact that we're still having to make cases and business cases for why it's important to make sure your workforce that's marketing to this nation reflects the nation is like so bizarre to both of us, right? And so it can feel like an uphill battle. But I think when we look at our alumni who've gone on to do really great things, it's just proof of concept and proof that the work matters, and that, that we have to stay in this fight for it.
Let's talk about some of the programs coming out of the center. And then I do want to highlight some of those alumni. What are some of the programs that the Mosaic Center offers?
Yeah, so of course we have the Mosaic Awards, and that's under our recognition pillar. We have another initiative called the Mosaic 10. And so essentially agencies can submit their multicultural work and have it reviewed by the communities that the work was meant to reflect. And so it doesn't necessarily go in front of like big industry judges like the Mosaic Awards, but it really gives you a pure consumer perspective of how your work really resonated. And we like to think that is probably the most important perspective. And so we tally up, the top 10 multicultural campaigns for the past year, and then we sit with it like what really worked from those campaigns, what were some key insights, and how can we share that information out with our corporate partners, and really help, like, just kind of create a brain trust of sorts to share this out and make sure we eliminate the competition factor, because this is information that everybody really should be aware of. So that's more so a trend report. And then we have 2 talent pipeline programs that sit under our Mosaic University pillar. And that's all of the work that we do that's targeted towards our collegiate chapter members and BIPOC students. And so part of that is just educating them about the ad industry, what opportunities are, how their interests can, reflect the ad industry and resonate there, and what career paths they could take. We also have a specific program under that pillar called HBCUs for Advertising, and that's a fellowship. Yeah. So that launched a few years ago in an effort to increase the representation of AAF student chapters at HBCUs. There weren't a lot at all. I think maybe like 2 or 3. And so, the thing is, a lot of HBCU campuses actually don't have formalized advertising programs. And so we know advertising does have a lot of power in shaping culture and perception, especially on our communities. And like, y'all need to be like in the room. And so we've been focusing on how we can help fill the curriculum gaps by bringing content to them, as well as bringing them to places like New York. We're also working on doing some things in Atlanta and Chicago pretty soon. And then the other talent pipeline program that we have is called the Most Promising Multicultural Student Program. And so that one is geared towards top performing college seniors from multicultural communities. And we essentially bring them together after they go through a very heavy interview, and it's just a very rigorous application and interview process. And we like to say, these folks are ready to be hired. And so we bring them to New York in February. They go to different agencies and brands, get really entrenched into the ecosystem of advertising. And our hope is they'll walk away with a job. And right now we have over the past 3 years, we've tracked towards about 88% placement rate within the first year of them going through the program. We're really proud of the work that we do in terms of creating access. Again, I'm from Port Arthur, Texas, so I did not have access to any of these resources. I didn't know anything about the industry. But once I started college and I joined the AAF student chapter, that's when I started to learn, like, oh, I was sitting here coding all these MySpace profile pages, and it's totally transferable. I can do something with this. So that's what we're trying to do, just helping them to see why their identities matter in this space, and then helping them connect the dots.
With AI, I have to ask you about this, which is reshaping every single industry. What impact, are there any concerns or any optimism you have about doors that it could even open as far as the BIPOC community? Or are there any concerns that you have? How is it kind of reshaping this industry?
I think there are, of course, concerns because the technology often moves faster than the legal system and how we regulate it, right? We've seen issues where people have started to kind of rewrite history with AI. And those, I would say, are probably like our biggest concerns, is just rewriting history, bias. So I do think that we can't be afraid of this technology. We need to get immersed in it, understand how it works, and be a part of developing it, so that way we can eliminate, because at its early stages, it was already implementing bias. So if you asked if you asked ChatGPT, and I'm using this as a very vague example, they probably but if you were to ask a platform like that, give me a summary of what a doctor does in a day, they would use the pronoun he, because they automatically would say a doctor is a male with a he pronoun, right? So things like that, I think we have to be at the forefront. We can't be afraid of it. There's a lot of opportunities that AI opens up, especially for when you think about diverse suppliers, agency owners that are just starting out that might not have copywriting team money, or they might not have content creator money, or the money to figure out how to get someone to come in and develop a media plan. They can lean on AI as a resource to get them from point A to point B until they can get the bigger budget to bring in that human capital, right? So I think there's a lot of different arenas that we're looking at. For us, our focus is on getting our students and our alumni educated about the different systems. We have a lot of tech partners that are involved with the AEF that are corporate members that have offered certifications up and things like that. So for us, our biggest focus is making sure that they're educated about it.
This has been so great. I want you to come on. I really want to hear some more hero stories about what's coming out of the Mosaic Center. I'm coming to the award show next time. I'm just coming. I'm just show up. Candace.
I'll put you on the list.
Yeah. Where can people go if they want to get more information and hear more about the work that you are doing?
Yeah, you can go to aef.org, or you can follow us on AEF National across all of our social channels. We post pretty frequently. We're also working on a separate AEF Mosaic Center website pretty soon. So be looking out for that. We'll post about it on our main channels once it's ready to go. But we're hoping, that'll be a more immersive experience and with a lot of consolidated resources. So we're really excited about that. Yeah, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Candace D. Queen, on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to connect with anyone that wants to talk a little bit more about what we're doing at the Mosaic Center.
Candace Queen, EVP of the Mosaic Center. Perfect name, like really perfect name.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on the record at AURN, and you are always welcome here.
Thank you.